You know, for Marvel being the powerhouse of movies that it is, it took over 11 years to get the very first female-led superhero movie. It's kind of sad. I mean, Wonder Woman came out a few years before, which was from DC, and then it took another 2 years for Marvel to come out with Black Widow. I mean, just do better, Marvel. Give us some more female representation. Hello everybody and welcome to Revisiting the MCU, the series where we turn back the clock, we revisit, rewatch, and re-review every single Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in release order leading up to the epic finale where we're going to be ranking them from worst to best, so make sure you subscribe and ring the bell notification down below so you don't miss out on that. But in today's video we are talking about the OP of OP in terms of Marvel characters, the very first female solo movie, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is the story of Carol Danvers, a space cop of sorts who has no memory of her past. She eventually ends up on Earth fighting the shape-shifting Skrull army with the help of Nick Fury while learning her forgotten past. To be honest with you, Captain Marvel wasn't really a character that I knew anything about prior to this movie. I was fairly optimistic leading up to the release of the movie, but I wasn't going in with the excitement because I didn't know much about her. Now, I was able to obviously enjoy the movie, but it did have some highs and lows for me throughout the runtime. And this movie was actually towards the top of my list in terms of what I was most excited to rewatch. Not because I had any particular attachment to it, but just because I couldn't really remember most of it, and I kind of remember why I don't remember most of it. Did that make any sense? Brie Larson plays our main hero, Carol Danvers, and I didn't mind it too much. I liked her charm and charisma and that she wasn't always even-tempered, nor knew the length of her abilities. I did, however, feel that her development as a character was rather rushed in this movie so she could just play a role in Endgame. This somewhat hindered my views of the character, but I tried to have an open mind. A de-aged Samuel L. Jackson is also in the movie, and though he does play an interesting role and explain how he knows Captain Marvel and are calling her during the credit scene of Infinity War, there isn't a big need for him to be in this movie at all. I love him and I love seeing a youthful and not so rigid Nick Fury, but I think if they just stuck young Coulson, who also appears in this movie, it would have been just the same movie. Jude Law is Carol's mentor as a space cop, and he's sort of just okay. His character is needed for various development points, but otherwise the character could have been played by anyone really. I don't know why it had to be a big name. Then the villain of the 2010s, also known as Ben Mendelsohn, plays Skrull leader Talos. This too could have been anyone in my opinion. Mendelsohn is so cemented as a villain, I wondered if that's the only reason maybe he got this role. I think he did a fair job, but considering that the Skrulls can be anyone and there's some twists and turns in the story, he does exactly what the role was supposed to be. Plus, we could even barely tell it was him for the majority of the movie, which I guess is just a testament to good VFX and makeup artists. Considering the Skrulls will reappear later and have a big part in the Secret Invasion Disney Plus series down the line, I'm sure this will be a highly revisited movie for the finer details, but I wish there would have been a bit more context here. They play it so heavily as an introduction to the species that comic fans know is evil that they kind of just turn it on its head a tiny bit, so how they will course correct or even evolve the storyline later will be very interesting. And speaking of story, this movie does try to have twists, turns, and a sense of the unknown. There's a little bit of this, but it feels like it gets muddled very fast. And unless you saw it in theaters, it can be very easy to get distracted doing pretty much anything else. I found myself having to force myself putting my phone away and stop scrolling during certain aspects of this movie. And that's not a testament to a good movie. A good movie has you engaged. You are fully immersed in the story of this movie. This one, it just was like, okay, I can catch tiny bits here and there and just get the gist of the most of the movie. I don't have to give it my full time and attention, which is unfortunate because it does have some pretty cool stuff. Overall, Captain Marvel isn't a bad movie. It's enough that you can say, that was a movie, but it's not anything that's going to be memorable or enjoyable, and I think that's why when I was so excited to revisit this one, I was like, I don't remember it, and again, that's why. It's just not memorable. Which, considering for a female-led superhero movie, it should have been a little bit more, especially for the very first one from Marvel. I mean, at least with Wonder Woman, DC was able to capitalize a little bit more on that and engage with some interesting scenes like the battlefield scene and a couple of other aspects, but this one just fell flat completely, which is not a good look for Marvel. I do have to say though that I hope that this character gets a little bit more development in her sequel, The Marvels, or maybe some other aspects, and not just be used as a scapegoat for somebody to fight Thanos or go off and save Tony Stark in space. I hope she gets a little bit more things to do, especially for a character who's so strong. I don't know how they're going to stack her up against really anyone unless she's doing her own sort of Green Lantern-esque space cop stuff, and that's going to be her other adventures in the future. But who's to say? But if you want to find out my ranking or where this movie ranks amongst the MCU movies in my personal list, make sure you hit like down below, subscribe, and ring the bell notification so you don't miss out when I do release that video where I'll be ranking the MCU movies from worst to best, and so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the rest of the Revisiting the MCU, or any other random videos I may put out. And for other Marvel content and other fun stuff from me, you can check out my videos on the Animated Apparel Company YouTube channel, where I talk about all sorts of stuff. I have an ongoing history of series where I go back and give you the history of various comic book villains, characters, heroes, all that good stuff, and some things you may be interested in find new information from. So be sure to go give them a subscribe, check out those videos, like, subscribe, all those good things. And you can even use my personal code Aaron20 at animatedapparelcompany.com to get 20% off your order. You can get all sorts of awesome stuff from Marvel, DC, Star Wars, anime, gaming, and so much more. And again, that code is Aaron20 to get 20% off your order. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it and hope to see you in the next video.